Hello. Oh, the music's not playing. Okay, sorry about that. Well, how to apply self acceptance is a question that I've gotten recently on my Discord channel. So I wanted to give you a little bit more of an in depth explanation about how to apply self acceptance instead of the usual kind of like a short and simple video. So, to give you the full question first, the full question is how to apply self acceptance, or where do I need to start? I often overjudge myself for small things. Even a little joke in a conversation, I have anxiety on it, even when I'm looking the mirror of myself. So, where do you start? Well, let's look at the phenomena of self judgment first, okay? So, the I judge myself. Usually, if you are like 90% of people, 90% is a statistic I pulled out of my ass. If you're like the majority of people, you find out that you have been self deprecating after you've done it, right? Or at least near the end of the self critical experience. Okay, so you catch yourself after you already are anxious, or after the anxiety wave is done and you're like, oh man, I couldn't do anything today because I was so anxious about that. Okay, which means we have a little bit of a lag between the experience and the perception of it. Good. So, if we start there, I think it's too late because there's nothing to do anymore. The wave is already done. But, there's still something you can do is preventing the next wave of self judgment from happening. But now, in order to do that, we have to be just constantly aware of doing something and being super self aware about it, right? But it's hard to be constantly aware of yourself. That's why meditation is so hard. That's why living, from a non like unconscious life, living a conscious life tends to be difficult because now you're supposedly walking down this path of self improvement. You're supposedly doing all of this like meditation and self awareness work to be happy, right? But when you sit down and actually meditate, and when you sit down and think about your life and think about your conscious decision making, so much of it doesn't make sense because you're just bombarded with the amount of thoughts that you have, right? And so, in general, right, everyone thinks a lot, but at the same time, everyone's negative thoughts are more likely to be significant to the mind. Why? Because as biological beings, before we have the spiritual dimension, we have the biological dimension, right? So, meditation, why is it hard? Like 108 bows, why is it hard? Why are all these practices challenging for the body? Because it goes against the biological need to be comfortable. Because biology is always inherently programmed to keep ourselves safe and comfortable. That's like why? So that we can reproduce, right? Life is, by definition, a self sustaining and self creating process. So, when we have a negative factor, we want to be able to get away from it because why? If we're too late to react to the negative stimulus, then it might be too late. And so our before we even get to the spiritual dimension, our biology dictates whether this is gonna like be on top of the priority queue in your brain or not, right? So, yes, we are going to feel a lot of things, we are going to think a lot of things, but what's at the top of the queue is most likely going to be negative things. Okay, so now we have this understanding. We have all these negative things to think. And when it comes to self judgment, like the example that the question asker gave is a little joke in a conversation, I have anxiety on it. Why? Because I might be perceived as cringy. I might be perceived as bad, right? So, a lot of our fears tend to be based on how other people view us, how society views us, how basically things outside of us view us. Again, it helps to understand when you're new to the self development world. It helps to know more about yourself. It helps to know more about the brain. It helps to know more about like structures in general, because it helps you rationalize why you do these things, and it helps you understand that you're not really that fucked up. Okay, so we explained why negative things tend to be on the top of the priority, and now why do we care so much about the world and how it views us? It's because, number one, you are one entity in your mind, but everyone else is like a big mass, right? So, by definition, you start having the majority and minority dynamic. And so, when you are not universally liked, then it triggers that really visceral kind of fear, because it stems down to, again, the biological mechanism. When you're in a group and everybody is threatening you, so just imagine this, right? Suppose you're at school, or suppose you're at the workplace, and everybody gives you a hostile look. You're gonna, like, before you even rationalize anything, right? Oh, they're probably like, I don't know, there's something on my shirt. Like, before you do get to that like thinking step, your body is gonna automatically give you this like, whoa, something feels really off, right? And because that majority has the power to kind of oust you in the type of a tribal kind of a mindset. So when other people perceive you at mass in a certain way, that has very realistic kind of biological implications. Okay, but now what if it's not? What if it's not like a mass thing, right? What if it's an individual thing? Then now, what is the significant factor about the mass to you relationship? The What's actually causing the biological reaction is the power difference. You perceive yourself as lacking power. You see yourself as less than this other entity. In the case of the mass, you are one person against like a mass, right? But now, you, your boss, you, your parents. So this is the power dynamic now at play. Compared to this authority figure, you are such a small part. You're like an ant, you can be squashed. So what this means is you're at the mercy of them, right? Your happiness and your well-being is, according to your brain and how you believe it, it's up to the stronger powers that be. If you're a religious person in the traditional sense, this is your relationship with God, or this is your relationship with Allah, or like any other supreme being, right? You're at the mercy of them. And so you always need to comply, you always need to think about how this powerful entity will see me, because why? You're not doing this for no reason. You're doing it for an intelligent reason. And that intelligent reason happens to be your well-being is at stake. Okay, so now, then why do we judge ourselves? How does this relate to self-acceptance? This ties in with self-acceptance because you criticize yourself for putting yourself at risk. Now, if I mess up at my job, I can be fired, right? And now if I get fired, think of how much that has realistic consequences for me, right? If I have a really wonderful, like, girlfriend, boyfriend, and I mess up and I fuck up, and then I had to, I lose them and I offend them, and if I have my parents and they have high expectations of me, but then I fail them, all these things are just ways you can kind of your well-being is gonna be at stake. Now, who's to blame when you mess this up? So if other person makes you feel bad, if other people like make you lose out on that power dynamic and make you feel bad, then of course your mind is going to naturally gravitate towards the person who brought you the suffering, right? But in this case, you're always hyper aware of all the things that can go wrong with your social life. And who do you have to blame? No one but you. So that's why the that's why the self judgments and self criticism happens, right? And now, we all know that when a guy is tall, like over 6 feet or 180 centimeters, in general, that's seen as an attractive feature, right? So now, when our biology becomes involved, and now, like, oh, suppose, like, oh, my nose is too flat, and oh no, my eyes are too small, and my head is too big, and I'm so small, I'm so short, and I'm balding, and or like if you're a lady, like, oh, my boobs are too small, or like I have no ass, and like I don't know, like my torso is too big. So many things that we can attribute our ill being to, right? I'm miserable because of these. And where do these things come from? This guy with two thumbs, right? So, at the core of self judgment, the root of it is that you're not really in control of your well being. You're not really in control of your life and your mind. That's at the essence of it, right? So, how do we apply self acceptance? Where do we need to start? We start by recognizing that other people are free to do whatever they want, and that includes thinking a certain way about you. It's okay if some people don't like you. It's okay if some people with a lot of power over your life don't like you. Because why? Yes, they may have a lot of power in your life, right? But who has more power in your life than that one person? You do. And you start to apply self acceptance by recognizing this power. By understanding that I am in responsibility for creating my reality. When I suffer, I'm the one who chooses to suffer. When I feel good, I'm the one who decides to feel good. When I feel confident, I'm the one who decides to feel confident. When I'm shy, I'm the one who's deciding to be shy. It's just that all those decisions are unconscious most of the time. So, by understanding that, oh, I'm in charge of my reality, I get it. Okay. But that charge was being taken care of by my unconscious mind. And my unconscious mind has a naturally gravitating way. It has a repeated pattern of thinking. So that's why I judge myself, because it's just what I've been doing more and more in the past. It has nothing to do with the actual validity of my action. And that is when you can more and more internalize that, and when you can more and more recognize the power and authority you have over your life and your reality, that's when the things start to change. So that is my kind of long explanation on how to apply self-acceptance. You have to understand, you have to recognize, like, holy crap, I am Tony Stark with an iron suit. Holy crap, I am Thor with the hammer. Holy crap, I am Deadpool with the, injection. Or anything like that, right? You have to recognize that, oh my god, I have all this power. I just didn't know it. And that is the starting